I've run into people so many times that say, I don't like my photograph taken, and I don't like pictures, or I don't take a good photograph. And my response to that typically is, it's because nobody showed you how to pose.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. My name is Nancy Moore, and I am the host of this weekly podcast that provides career and creative inspiration to help you build a passionate and purpose-filled life. You'll hear from guests that will help you tap into your creative potential, pursue a career with passion, and build on your biggest and best resource, yourself. I'm excited to have you join this conversation. I'm so happy you're here. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. So my next guest is Mike Tedford. He is the owner of Mike Tedford Photography and really has a different background as far as how he got into the photography business. So he pursued the more traditional route of going to college at ORU and majoring in finance, and ended up going into his family insurance business. And he was there for 30 years. And in 2017, he retired from that business and decided to pursue a second career in photography, which was a hobby he enjoyed during his high school years. And this photography was a side hustle that he did and dabbled in for people while he was working full time. And he was able to grow this after he retired. And to set himself apart in the photography space, he ended up purchasing a vintage car to use as a prop. And that move turned out to grow in a unique way, offering another part of his business that has really taken off, and it's the vintage car rental or vintage car service. And it really wasn't until he retired from the insurance industry that he decided to deepen his knowledge of photography and vintage car maintenance. And he enrolled in the photography program at Oklahoma State University and ended up earning a degree in photography in 2019. And his education, coupled with his boots on the ground doing different projects, he's been able to work in portrait, landscape, and event photography. And that's just a little sampling of what he's been up to. His vintage car driving service includes these classic automobiles from the 1930s to the 1960s, and they provide transportation for weddings as well as serving as props in photo shoots. And he actually pulled up in a 1960 Rolls Royce, and I was absolutely amazed with how it was pristine and beautiful, and it was so fun to see the car. And so I know that they photograph well, and it really is a unique offering in his photography business. And so during our visit, Mike's going to share a little more about his background, how he came to start this second career, as well as offering some tips to consider when taking headshots for LinkedIn or, for your own profile. So I hope that you enjoy this visit with Mike Tedford. Before we jump into the episode, I'd like to take a minute to thank my sponsor, 5 Star Painting of Tulsa. Lori and her husband Trevor are incredible to work with. They painted the exterior of my home, and I couldn't be happier. They're engaged in every step of the process, from the paint consultation to the follow-up. They ensure your project is beautifully completed in a timely manner, and they are meticulous with detail, so you don't have to be. They are also friendly, knowledgeable, and combine top quality work with high quality products. Other attributes that set 5 Star Painting apart include being family owned, insured, and members of the Tulsa Home Builders Association. So when you have a painting project, 5 Star Painting is the one to call, and they provide free estimates. You can give them a call, actually Trevor, at 918-500-5788. It's amazing how a fresh coat of paint can transform a space. Connect with them today. So today I have Mike Tedford with me on the podcast. I am so happy to be talking to him because we have a lot of fun at Montereau with photography. And most recently, we were in a golf cart together for several hours, going around Southern Hills Country Club. And he mentioned, we were talking about his just fascinating background. And then I invited him on the podcast because I thought more people need to hear about the passion that he has for what he's doing in his current life.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you can be here. For those who don't know Mike, tell us a little about yourself.
Oh my, that's very broad. So Mike Tedford, as far as, I've met a lot of people in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
So it can vary, but essentially moved to Tulsa when I was very young, graduated from Jenks High School, went on to ORU, graduated from ORU, and then essentially went into the family insurance business. And so my father started the business in 1978. He'd been in the insurance business before, but wanted to be in business for himself, and decided to open those doors here in Tulsa. And it started in Tulsa, but ultimately he moved to Main Street Jenks in the early 90s.
That's where I knew
right.
That
and he's
name.
been there since 91. We first moved into the Jenks in the old Victor Federal and Savings and Loan building in 1991. And that's when I essentially went to work for him at that point after graduating from ORU, and did that for 30 years and enjoyed it. And then in 2017 retired from insurance, and needing something to do. I'd always loved photography. Went to because I'd taken classes at other places, it ultimately led me to OSU to take classes there because they had a photography program. So I ultimately enrolled there for classes, and they talked me into not just taking classes, but to go ahead and get the degree. And I originally didn't want to make it a career because I was afraid it would ruin it. I was like, I enjoy this. This is fun. And if I make it a career, it'll spoil it. But not true. Not true at all. I thoroughly love doing it. I love having a camera in my hands.
Oh, see, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna take us back a little bit because you mentioned that the photography, and actually we'll talk about vintage cars later.
Sure.
Started that love for both started in high school. So when you attended ORU, was it kind of the expectation that you go into the family business?
I don't think it was an expectation that I had to go into the family business. I just think it was kind of a natural thing, to kind of go there. My degree at ORU was in finance, and I took a photography class when I was at ORU. I took several art classes because art was kind of my escape. When I needed a break, art was kind of that break for me at times. But my degree was in finance, and I can remember having to take a risk management class. That was part of my degree plan, and the teacher asking me to stick around after class. First 2 or 3 weeks of class, he's like, "Hey, you stick around," and I was like, I didn't do anything. I'm not. I'm not failing the class yet. But his comment to me was, he says, "You're different," and I was. Okay. I was like, I don't know what that means. But what he was essentially implying, and eventually kind of got around to, he's like, compared to everybody else in the class, he says, you have a grasp of this concept that nobody else is getting. And that's what I realized. It stemmed from the being in the insurance business. And my father would have me go work before I could 15 years old, he'd have me come work in the office in the summer, answering phones or filing things. And it wasn't really because he was trying to help me understand the business better or train me or groom me to enter the business. It was because he was trying to get me and my brothers out of the house to give my mom a break during the summer months. So that's all it meant,
Yeah.
But he said something to me that was very impactful. I was probably 15 years old. I was acting as their receptionist during the summer, and I remember sitting down at the dinner table with him after a day of work, and I said, "Dad, everybody that calls in has a problem. And I remember he looked at me just very, very straight faced, just came right back at me real fast. He goes, yes. And if you can solve that problem, you can make lots of money. And so, and fundamentally, that's what insurance has been. I mean, what it kind of is, it's helping people who are having a problem. You don't buy insurance because everything went right, and so that was kind of the insurance side. There was, answer your question, there was no expectation necessarily going into the family business. All of my brothers ultimately did work in the family business. And my middle brother, when he graduated a year or so after me, 2 years after me, and came into the business, he seriously interviewed at other locations, other places, before coming into the family business, because he wanted to make sure he explored all those options and not just make this assumption that this is all I can do, it's all I'm going to do, type situation. Yeah.
So you stuck with that for 30 years.
I did that for 30 years, yes.
And then once you retired, that's when you felt like I have the time to do something that I would.
Yeah, to some extent. So I really didn't have a plan to retire.
Okay.
It was one of those type situations where, in working in a family business, just with my brother and doing some different things, just one day he popped off and was like, I think I'd like to buy you out. And so I said, make an offer. And he did. And I remember saying, well, okay, you really want to buy me out, And so that's where I was like, okay, this is my opportunity. So I kind of jumped at that without a plan. And, as far as kind of stepping away from the business and chose to do that. And so that's, once I'm kind of like sitting around kind of go, all right, I need to find something to do. I had taken photography classes at TCC and other places just for the enjoyment of it. And I always wanted to kind of hone those skills. Because I did enjoy the medium and doing that and wanted to improve. And so that's initially all I was trying to do was, when that next semester came around, the kids all went back to school and I was like, I need to do something so I'm not at home, bothering the wife or something like that. It's like I need to, and so I knew somebody who was an instructor at ORU, and so I just reached out to them and said, I'd like to come take some classes, and what do I have to do to get enrolled?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is so interesting, because what a blessing to be in that position, because people, would work so hard to retire to then do what they want. And
right.
You're young and you're being able to really look at your time and your life and your situation and decide what you want to do. And you have created Mike Tedford Photography.
Yes.
So let's talk about that, like how you grew that business, how you reached out to people, because you are very well known in this area. Because I mean, you've got to be entrepreneurial.
Yes.
You did work in the insurance business for 30 plus years, but let's talk.
You can't be afraid to reach out and communicate with people and talk with people. And I love what I do, and there's a need for it. There's definitely a need for it, especially in today's environment with I say social media and things of that nature. Need content. That's the key word. Everybody's talking about needing content, and whether it's a podcast or it's a TV show or it's a commercial or it's social media, things of that nature. Everybody's looking for content, and imagery, photography is part of it. I would tell the agents, even when I was working at the office, I said, nobody here should have a bad profile picture. I was like, if anybody here has a bad profile picture, that's shame, because, and we'd have meetings, team meetings, and with the agents and the different staff, and I would set up a space 2 or 3 times a year to do headshots for people so that they would have, and I even used it because I helped with the marketing. So I needed, not only they need a good headshot for their LinkedIn or whatever profile they needed it for, but I needed that headshot for marketing, sending out a press release talking about we've hired this person for the website, for all of those things. So it was dual functional. For us, and if I ever saw anybody had a bad photo, I'd be like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. But once I started, working, hang my shingle out and said, all right, I'm going to do this now. It was just a matter of making contacts and talking to people. But the interesting thing is, for me, is so I graduated December 2019, hung my shingle out January 2020.
Okay.
And, essentially, COVID strikes 3 months later. And every, appointment, every
booking,
thank
client,
you.
yeah.
Every booking that client I talked to and scheduled throughout 2020, because I went and met with people that I knew were doing projects and I knew would be hiring somebody, and said, I'm available, I'm interested. What do you have on the books? Can we work out an arrangement? And they would give me dates, and I would put them in my calendar and diary those things out. Every one of them within 2 weeks canceled. All the way through the year. Every one of them canceled. And so, it just became of like, okay, that's interesting type scenario. So
what'd you do with your time then?
Well, that's where probably the vintage cars
Okay, let's talk about the
comes
vintage cars
in.
then.
And so, there's probably a little bit of a misconception, to some extent, that I have I have a real vision for vintage cars, or I have a real, I'm trying to, you used the word a minute ago, now I can't think of what it was. I don't have a passion for vintage cars. I like cars.
Okay.
I enjoy cars.
Okay.
I enjoy looking at them and driving them and things of that nature, but I'm not a collector.
Okay.
Okay. What I did in late 2019 is I was flipping through Facebook Marketplace and found a 1934 Plymouth and liked it. I thought it was priced well. I thought it was an attractive looking vehicle, and I wanted to purchase it to use in photography. I was like, I want something that sets me apart from others, that's different, and this can be one of those things that's a prop. I mean, that's how I look. It's a prop, and that's what I wanted. And I off the cuff said, when I'm not using it for photography, maybe somebody would be interested in using it for a wedding. And so initially, I went to the wedding show, the Tulsa Wedding Show, in January 2020, with the intent of just kind of finding out the marketplace. I was still working on the photography side of things. Do I want to do weddings? Do I want to get involved? So I could walk around and talk to photographers and get their information, understand what the market was like. And then while I was there, get information from wedding planners on would they be interested in renting my car, and just really kind of do some market research to some extent. And because I wasn't in a big rush or pressure to rent the car necessarily. That's not why I'd gotten it, but oh my gosh, I mean, it was like this rumor spread throughout the facility while I was there that this guy has a car, he's willing to rent it out. And a blessing for me that I did not realize is, prior to purchasing the car, not from the guy I got it from, but the person he bought it from used it in weddings.
Oh, cool.
And I did not know that was the case. But when I'm there looking at photographers' picture books, I'm looking at a book and I go, hey, wait, I bought that car. That's my car. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, I purchased that car. I own that car. And they, are you interested in renting it out for weddings? I said, well, yeah, absolutely. And so I did not show up with a contract, a business card, a business name, a website. I was truly there looking for market research, and walked out with 5 people that said, if you get us a contract, I have a bride that'll sign it. They want your car for their wedding. And so that told me, I was like, okay, this is a bigger deal than I thought. And I did 2 or 3 weddings before COVID hit, and with an understanding of this is a niche that is underserved, underutilized, and there's a real demand. And so during COVID, somebody reached out to me and let me know, it was an auctioneer. He said, I have a family that is trying to sell this vehicle, and it might suit you. Are you interested? And it was a 1963 Rolls Royce.
Is that what's out?
No, that's
outside?
a 1960 Rolls Royce that I parked out front. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a little different car. So, but anyway, though, that's what I wound up purchasing, that with the idea of that COVID won't last forever, and weddings will come back. And so I was like, I can sit on this car until it comes back. And that was a real helpful thing, because when Oklahoma opened things back up in May of 2020 for small weddings, I received a lot of feedback, people wanting that now for their wedding, when so many other things they couldn't do, and so they wanted that getaway car for their wedding. And so that's kind of the birth of how the vintage cars started. And I did that for a couple of years until 2022, end of 2022. I did it as a side hustle, that I had 2-3 cars, and I would just manage it. And I now have 9. I decided into 2022 that it was like, okay, it's time to make this a business.
Yeah.
And so I acquired a few more and expanded.
Talk about things falling into place.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was truly just kind of what they say, luck favors the prepared.
Oh, right.
And
Yes.
so, there was some luck involved in it, but at the same time, it was being able to be prepared. So going back to answer your question about what did I do during COVID, I needed that time. I needed time to sit at my desk and work to develop a website, to develop a marketing plan, to write a contract. And so I spent quite a bit of my time, setting up social media accounts and getting the contracts drafted and doing things like that. So I was prepared so that as things started coming back and people were asking me for things, I would have it. And so, being a photographer, I created my own content. As far as I worked with another photographer as well, and we would go out and take pictures of the car, so I had content to put on the website and what have you. And I was also very blessed that I received a contract to do some work for the Cherokee Nation, helping build out their portfolio to show these wonderful places within the counties of Oklahoma that are part of the Cherokee Nation that they were wanting to develop for their film office. And so that was work that I was able to do. Essentially, I had a job once a month for a week that they would hire me to drive around, and I didn't have to talk to people.
Oh, so you couldn't. With that situation,
they would give me a list of, these are the places we want you to work, this county, and these are the places we definitely want you to get a photograph of. And then they would say, maybe 50, 75 locations we want photographs of. And then they would say, now we need an additional 200 on top of that. And so I would drive around the county. I would start with a little bit of research, of identifying the places that they wanted, where they were, and I found fascinating things about Oklahoma. That was a great opportunity to learn so much about Oklahoma, just driving around and seeing these different places and learning more about the state that I live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a cool opportunity.
Oh, that's one of the things I love about photography is it does give you those opportunities, gives you those chances to work on different projects like that and do different things of that nature, and just discover different things. I get to go to a lot of events. Yeah, and and I say event, I mean, clearly, you talked about meeting at Montereau and doing photography with Montereau. That there's some wonderful residents there that are so much fun, and I get to meet them and I get to interact with them and work with them on different events and capture those moments. But I've been at marathons and I've been at runs and I've been at the what's the bike race? Why can't I think of it all of a sudden? Tulsa Tough.
Oh, yeah.
I've done Tulsa Tough and amongst other different events and things of that nature, just to kind of see different things that happen here in our community. Yeah. And, but that's also one of the things I'll do on my own as well is, Scott Fest is coming up here and it's kind of different, and different is always fun to take photographs of. So I'll look for things that are happening, and sometimes if I'm free, I'll get maybe another photography friend of mine. And in fact, one of the things we're going to do here in another month is the Big Boy is coming to town.
What's that?
It's a train. It's a vintage steam locomotive.
Okay.
And so it's coming. It's doing a tour right now. It was in Arkansas. What's today? Today's Tuesday. No, it's today Monday.
Monday.
So it was in Arkansas this weekend, I think, is where it was. It's going to be in Little Rock.
Okay.
And then it's headed further south, and then it'll be coming back through. When it comes back up north, it'll be coming back through Oklahoma. So I've already got plans with a couple of people. We're gonna chase the train and take pictures.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, just have a great time.
Yeah.
It'll be a great day.
Yeah. That's so cool. So if you'll tell people a little bit about the photography that you take, because it is a lot. It
Yes.
can't, but I also want to get your perspective on maybe a couple of tips for headshots.
Oh, absolutely. Headshots is definitely something I do a lot of.
Yeah.
A lot of the work I do is commercial. I mean, yes, I do families, I do senior photos, I do all of those types.
Do you do weddings or no?
I don't do weddings unless
Okay.
I'm specifically asked. If,
Okay.
if a close friend of mine comes up and asks for me to do a wedding, I will consider it. But there are a lot of wedding photographers out there that want to do weddings, and I let them. I let them. The thing I've done is I've become a second shooter in a lot of cases. So what I'll encourage them is hire a photographer that wants to do weddings, and I will come in and be the second shooter and help assist, but I don't want to be the primary. That's
Okay.
not, like I said, there's so many people that want to do that. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And I let them.
Yeah.
And so, but I've done a few. I have done a few, but like I said, I do a lot of commercial work, so a lot of headshots, a lot of content for social media and things of that nature. I've done, architectural images as far as for a variety of different reasons. Definitely work like for the film office and things of that nature. I've also done some commercials. So I'm the stills photographer on set while a commercial's being shot. I've done a TV show. So
Wow.
I've done all those kind of things.
Okay.
So I just recently was hired. There's a movie production for a movie that's being made here in Oklahoma, and they had me come in and do the movie posters. So I was shooting the movie
cool.
posters for that. So a lot of fun in
Okay.
that. So those are some of the different things that I get to do that
Yeah.
are just, So I laughed at that project because, when you're watching a TV show, a movie or something like that, and they'll show photographs of the family on the refrigerator, on the mantle, or next to the bed, those all have to be shot at some point, or at least somebody do graphic editing, to merge them together. And so I was shooting family photos in the park of this make-believe families,
Oh my gosh, that's
because
funny.
they needed them for the movie props that they were going to be using in the movie. So it's just kind of different.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah.
But as far as headshots are concerned,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Headshots, it's what I said earlier as far as staff within Tedford Insurance, everybody needs to have a good headshot. And they still have me come frequently and do new headshots for people, especially new staff and things as they've been growing and what have you. But I'm trying to think of, one, I really have to say this, I've run into people so many times that say, I don't like my photograph taken, and I don't like pictures, or I don't take a good photograph. And my response to that typically is, it's because nobody showed you how to pose.
Oh, okay.
And that is such a big influence on how your photographs come across, appear. And because this is audio and we're not showing pictures, some of the examples that I might give, I can give these examples of okay, you don't look good when you do this, and there are just certain things that people will do sometimes. It's like, stop doing that. That doesn't, you're far more attractive, far more handsome than what you're doing, and so I try to educate people. I have a little video, a little page that I will send out to people before we do a shot sometimes, or have an appointment. And there's a video to watch, and there's different things just to kind of say, start thinking about doing these. So find your pose, find out what that, I probably the best story I really have in that sense is I had a gentleman that I was doing headshots for, and I was trying to get him to smile real big, because he wasn't. He was trying to hold back a smile, which doesn't look good when you hold back a smile. You have all that tension in your face. And so I was trying to get him to smile real big, and he says, I don't like my smile. My smile, it doesn't look good, and really, my response, because I hear that so often, is, yeah, right. And then I got him to smile real big and took a picture of it, and I was like, oh, you're right. Your smile is probably, that's something we want to work with, and that's it. He's one of the very few people that I actually kind of looked and said, okay, we may have a point here, but this is what I discovered in working with him.
Okay,
100% did not work for him. 75% did. So at the end of the photo shoot, the whole discussion kind of we found 75% and it was perfect. That's exactly what he needed to do. And so that's why it's like, you need to practice 75%. Because that is, instead of having
75% of teeth showing, smile, whatever.
75% of a smile. If you're that big smile that you don't like, that's really not photographing well, I understand that that's not you, then dial it back about 25%. Find that 75% place. You're happy, you're engaged, it's inviting, friendly. It's everything we want in that photograph. And it's attractive for him. It's a handsome for him. It's a good look for him. And so that's where it's like, that's what you need to practice. That's where you need to be. And so, I've had some individuals that have had broken noses, and they're very self-conscious about it. And sometimes just turning one direction or another makes all the difference in the world. And so it's little things of that nature, as far as working with them to find, do you have one side that works better than another side? And there are people that do. There are some people that say, I don't know. It's interesting. You have one side better than another? No, I don't know. I don't know. Then they probably don't. But when you say, do you have one side better than another? And oh, yes. They know. They know they do. And so it's like, okay, show me.
Yeah.
And so, there are a variety of different reasons why that may be the case. That may be that one side photographs better. But it's like, okay, find that space, know what that is, and then practice that. And so that's the big thing. Know how to pose. Know what your pose is. I have my pose down. I had to learn it. I practiced it. And I had actually had people tell me as I was going through that process, I can tell you've changed. I can see it in your pictures now. And so, it was being noticed by other individuals. And they were like, hey, show me what you're doing. Show me what's taking place, so that they could kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Now another thing is, and this is a big deal too, I say a big interest, I have individuals that, and really so many times it's about weight. I don't like my picture because I've gained weight, and I don't like that. And I understand. I'm not at my ideal weight either. Okay. But everybody knows that. They can see me. So I'm not hiding anything. By not having a photograph of it, I'm not hiding anything. And I think one of the worst things that you can do is have a 15-year-old picture that doesn't look like you anymore. Granted, you like it because maybe your hair's not as gray and you weigh less, and great, that's fantastic. Let's use that for other things. Let's not use that for your profile picture, because it creates what I call cognizant dissonance.
Okay, explain that.
That's the big fancy word for you don't look like your photo.
Oh, okay.
Okay, somebody walks in, or it's so often today that you're being interviewed before you ever know you're being interviewed. They're going online and looking at your profile and looking at who you are before they ever meet you.
On LinkedIn.
That's exactly right. Yes. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever it may be. They're looking at that before they ever talk to you, meet you. And so what you don't want to create is they identify this person online. They identify this profile picture, and then they show up and they're like, oh my gosh, how old was that photo? You're not the same person. And I've had that, discussion with a general contractor. I mean, they build buildings. Okay. And so I was talking to him about doing a headshot, and he goes, okay, I'll get my suit and tie on. I go, no, wait a minute. How often do you wear a suit and tie? I said, do you wear a suit and tie when you go visit your customers? No. I said, where would you go visit with your customers? I mean, look nice.
Yeah.
But wear what you would typically wear when you see your customers. If it's a checkered shirt and no tie, then let's wear a checkered shirt and no tie. If you would wear a jacket, but maybe no tie. But if you're an attorney and you commonly wear a suit and tie, wear a suit and tie. Because what you don't want to do is, I could think of this general contractor, who builds buildings, and we take a photograph of him in a tuxedo. That is not him.
Right.
And it's going to create that distance when they meet you. And that's what we don't want to do. And if you feel like, I want to take the best picture of you I can, where we're enhancing everything we can enhance. But if you're like, I weigh more than I want to weigh, I understand. Again, everybody who sees you knows that. So let's take your photograph, let's make this the best picture we can, and in 6 months, when you've gotten to the weight place you want to get, I'll come back out and take another photograph of you. You know, we'll have before and afters. You know,
Oh, yeah.
something along that line. But
Yeah.
you know, and I do recommend. I recommend every 2 years, every 24 months, somewhere in that range. 1 year may be too often. 3 years may not be often enough. But at some point in that 24-month period, you should be looking at redoing your headshots. Okay, you know, it's not like I was 25 and I got my headshot done and now I'm finished. And 30 years later, that's the photograph you're still using.
Yeah.
You know, that should not be the case.
Yeah.
You want to keep those updated.
Okay, that's a very good point. Now and of course I'm specifically thinking of my students at
Yes.
TCC who can't afford to hire somebody for headshots, but need, because they're looking, they're looking for jobs, they're expanding their careers. What would be a tip for them on having a LinkedIn shot?
Well, there's a lot of
Like maybe with their iPhone, I hate to say iPhone, but that they're taking. Maybe.
Well, no, and there's a couple of, and really, to say it is even with an iPhone, you can take very good photographs with an iPhone. So I don't ever want to bash people who are taking iPhone photographs, because you can take some really good photographs with an iPhone or any phone. I don't want to necessarily just pick on Apple.
I know.
Any phone,
I have
as we're
an Apple,
talking
yeah.
about that there. But, you probably need, and you can, they're out there all day long. Look up a YouTube video on how to make the best possible headshot with an iPhone. And there's going to be tips. We'll be talking to your class here after this, and there's some tips that I'll be talking with them about as far as, you don't want to crop a photograph. You don't want to say, oh, I really like that photograph of my girlfriend or my significant other, whoever. Let me just crop them out. That doesn't typically work well. You don't want to have one, with other people in it. You don't want it to be cluttered. You don't want it to have this background that is distracting. And with AI today, where they can remove some of the apps now where you can take a shot and you like your photograph and you want to have the background removed and a plain simple color put back there, very easily done today with today's applications. So those are the things I'll be talking about is, let's not have distracting backgrounds. Make sure you're the center of attention, the center of focus. Make sure it's relevant to what you're doing and who you are, and things of that nature. You don't want to have a picture of you at the beach.
Right.
And now, if you're a lifeguard, if you do surfing lessons, picture at the beach is great. That's great. But let's not have a picture out at the beach if you're financial planner.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's probably not what we want to do.
And it's so funny that you say that, because it seems like that would be just understood, but it is not. Just me looking at just countless LinkedIns, and even the students that I'm looking at theirs, because they're developing that, it's not as widely known as you think. So
what I think it ties into so many times, which I certainly understand, when we're talking about people's self-image and their esteem and things of that nature, is when they see a photograph that they think they look good in, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that you think you look good in that photograph, but is that the right photograph for your profile? And that's oftentimes what takes place. Is where they haven't gotten a specific photograph for their profile. They just found a photograph they thought they looked good in. And for Facebook or Instagram, that may be fine. Okay, but for a place like LinkedIn and some of the other more professional sites that you may be looking at, not so much. And the same thing goes for the website. I've said this to, there was actually an attorney I was talking to recently. I was like, I have to come out and redo your photographs, because your front page looks beautiful. You purchased all these great clip art. That's not the right word I'm looking for. Why can't I think? I've gone blank on, like, Getty Images, where you can license photographs. Stock photos, thank you. Where you can get these beautiful stock photos. I'm sure they paid for on their front page, looked great. And then when you went to the staff pictures or the About Me photographs, it was just pictures that they had gone out in the back and taken of somebody standing up against a brick wall. And it just didn't match. Cognitive dissonance again, for different reasons. It just didn't match. It wasn't the same. And that's where, we got to do better. We got to do better on something like that. And that's where I try to give some hints sometimes. When people are going to do something like that, a lot of times they stand right up against the wall, right up against a brick wall, something like that. And if you stand off of that brick wall, away from it, so that the wall gets blurred out a little bit more, and it brings more focus to whoever you're taking the picture of. Those are little things that you can do to help with your images. And I think, like in YouTube video.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I will say, if you can afford it, it's worth the investment to have somebody
Absolutely.
like you, or, to take the professional headshots, because that will last, like you said, a couple of years.
Absolutely.
And when people are wondering more about you, should they hire you for something, whether it's for, you're an entrepreneur and it's their business, I think it's just worth it.
And here's one of the things that I was doing a little while as well. So, talk about finding ways to help with cost. So when I was a student, I'm in classes getting assignments. And sometimes one of the best assignments that I ever had to do was with a friend of mine who was a realtor, and I needed to do the in-studio shots. And I reached out to him, and they said, hey, do you mind coming in studio and doing this? I need somebody to do it. And I'd rather... I was trying to find people that I could help as well, not just other fellow students. Not that they weren't good people, but, and so I had him come in, and we did a nice 30, 45-minute session where I shot several different pictures, and he used those images on his website and his business card and his Facebook page and everything. He, for a good several years before, I'm just now starting to see him replace those pictures.
Wow, cool.
Where he's getting newer pictures and updating some of the things that he's been doing.
Yeah.
And so that's been, 5 years ago now.
Okay.
And so there may be a student, that is needing a project, and they're needing a subject, and, you might be able to do something of that nature. A young person that's trying to get into the business, that, can do that. And there's some great software. I'm thinking of like Thumbtack and Glassdoor and even LinkedIn, places where you can meet Fiverr, where you can meet people, type in what you're looking for, and it'll make recommendations of people that would be available and some prices that would help you. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Fiverr. I've used that, and it's been a while, but it was a great resource at the
Absolutely.
time. So yes. Okay. So what advice would you say to your younger self? And you can think back to a certain time and tell us what it is. I was thinking if you wanted to maybe say something about your college self.
You cheated a little bit with me, and you gave me a sneak peek of some of the questions before we met today. And I saw that question, and I've struggled with it since I saw it. I'm not sure what I would tell myself. I mean, I think of some things that, my college self. So, unfortunately, my father passed away 20 years ago. I was 36 when he passed away, and he was a vital part of the business, and so those are things I would probably want to tell myself. Those kind of events, I would probably, say, hey, these are the bumps you're going to run into, because I think in my father is an example that appreciate the time I have with him. And I think similarly, unfortunately, I'm in a situation now where I'm single, after 30 years being divorced, and being able to kind of go back and tell myself, hey, these are the things you're going to go through. These are the events that are going to happen. Here are some things maybe you could do better. Here's how you could be a better son, a better father, a better husband, in some of those situations. Because I'm fairly pleased with, I don't feel like I got the wrong degree. I don't feel like I took the wrong path. I don't feel like, for me anyway, I don't look at some of those things and think, that was the wrong thing to do. Because I don't know, I guess so much of my life was about insurance and the risk management and doing those things, and I don't know that I want to give that up to go become a full-time photographer at the age of 25. There's so many things I would have missed out on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that perspective because you can't go back and do it again. So I'm happy for you that you've enjoyed that experience. It's taken you to where you are now.
It has. It's brought me to where I am now. So yeah.
Okay, so in wrapping up then, I'd like for you to kind of share with people about how you're growing either personally or professionally in 2024.
Oh, wow. Well, one of the things that I do for myself, I'm a procrastinator.
You are?
I'm a procrastinator.
Okay.
I am. I'm kind of a procrastinator. And I not only am part procrastinator, I part risk avoidance. Even though I'm a bit of an entrepreneur, I'm still that way about things. I sit down and talk with my financial advisors and things of that nature, and they kind of give me a hard time because I intellectually know why I'm doing what I'm doing, but at times it makes me nervous, but it's like, but I'm still going to do it. Like, are you sure? Yes, we're going to go ahead and do that. I create, see if I can get the right word here. I create a sense of urgency. So there are times when I recognize that I need to make a move, and I'm hesitant to make that move, and so I create this sense of urgency to help myself be motivated for. I need to get this done. I need. When I don't want to cold call new clients. I don't want to.
Are you still having to do that a little bit?
Well, I wouldn't say cold, but there are times when I just know I need to reach out to somebody. So warm clients. I have people that have said to me, "Hey, I need to get this project done." And instead of me just waiting around for them to call and say, "You're ready for it," I need to reach out to them and say, "Hey, where are you on this project? What's going on? Can we get it on the calendar? Can we, that's I still have to do those things. That's I can't just wait around all the time for just everything." And so, times when I need to move a car from vintage car for weddings, I need to move it to Oklahoma City, or I need to move it to Wichita because that's where we're expanding to, and I haven't done it yet, and just little things I need to get done. I put myself in a position where I put a crunch on cash flow, and so it's like, I got to be able to pay the bills, and what I got to do to pay the bills? Well, it means I gotta go make some sales.
Oh, good.
I got to go do those things. So that's, those are the things a lot of times where like I said, create that sense of urgency that it's got to get done. I need to get this done. It needs to happen because I've kind of put myself, and friends will help you with that very well. If you tell them, I need to get these things done, and here are the consequences I want you to hold me to if I don't get it done. And, your friends are always happy to apply consequences.
So funny, yeah.
But I think in answer maybe as well as I'm not a book reader.
Okay.
My brother gives me a hard time. He says, "Mike, you're very well read for somebody who doesn't read," because I do audiobooks.
Oh yeah.
That's
great.
That's where I found the best ability to consume that information.
You're so busy with, I was thinking, being in the car, even driving a car to Wichita, if you're the one who drives it, you can hear the audiobook. You can listen to all kinds of things. You can listen to podcasts, you can listen to audiobooks, all kinds of things to be able to listen to. And so that's where I really kind of consume that material. And just as I say out and about, people drop things. Hey, have you heard about this book? Have you talked about this book? Have you talked about these concepts? And I'll quickly, that's the age of electronics that I do enjoy. I'll quickly go and make myself a note about something, or I'll look it up on iTunes. Is that audiobook available on iTunes? And if it is, download. And then I'll put it in the queue to be able to listen to and consume. So I think one of you asking for me, I've kind of found it, but I think my encouragement to others is find what does work. If you want to consume that information and the book is hard for you, the reading is hard for you, or you like the Kindle or the Fire, is it the Kindle Fire? Yeah.
I think?
Yep.
Something like that works for you. Whatever works. If audio is the best thing, go with audio. Do whatever that is. And if you need to get abridged, don't apologize. Get abridged.
Yes, right.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have the time. So like you said, I'm in the car. I don't want abridged. I always want the full thing.
Right.
Because I've got the time. I want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for visiting with me today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
And sharing more about your business. And it's funny, the day that we were out there together, because we worked quite a bit together at Monroe, but the day we rode around in the golf cart for all that time, you were so engaging with people, it just, in you, I'm usually the one doing that, just having them with the pictures and all and they were so happy. I think it's just the way you approach them, how friendly you are, how excited you were to be there. I could just see that, and that energy, translates.
I'm creating the environment.
You are, and you know that.
Yeah, I do. I am aware of that. As far as I had to learn the craft of how the camera works so that I could do it naturally, kind of muscle memory, so that I could be engaging with the people and who I'm there with, to make the experience a good experience for them. I always like it when I finish a photo session and somebody says, "Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be." Yeah, that's a huge compliment for me. That's a huge compliment. Yeah, that's so cool. I want them to kind of at the end say, "That was fun. That wasn't bad at all. I enjoyed that." Yeah. So
good.
Yeah, and I aware how important that is, and so make that part of the process.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Well, thanks again for talking to me. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you being here. And don't forget to connect with me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.